couple of folks asked me what I've been playing through lately. A little bit different pedal setup than I have had on some earlier tapes. A couple of different pedals I haven't used before or used much. So this video is just going to be a few of those toys. Ones I've played with for the past few months. Most recently, I've had this configuration, which starting from the right side here, sorry about the shaky camera work there, is an Ibanez TS9DX Turbo Tube Screamer. I think it's like one knob more than their classic Tube Screamer. A lot of people like the one that's just got 3 knobs. This one has drive, level, mode, and tone for adjust knobs that you can adjust on it. Right now I got the drive about half up, level about 3/4 over, mode's in about the 3/4 position, which I'm not sure what mode that is. It's kind of hard for me to read it, and it's like my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, but that's the sound I've had it set at. And then the tone's back about only about 1/4 up. If you got that pedal, you can try to experiment around with that setting, see how you like it. There's a lot of different settings on that one. That's why it's kind of nice. I like the 4 knobs. I've got another Ibanez Tube Screamer that I have been using. That's I think maybe a little more advanced than this one. This one's a little bit earlier model than the one I had been using. So I've just been experimenting with the difference in the tone there. And then this is the standby, one of my favorite pedals. See if I can get it. It's bad glare on it. But that's the Boss Harmonist HR-2, the Harmonist pedal. And its settings are E level, A and B. I think it's got 2 settings on that knob, up and down. The top part turns, and then there's a lower ring that turns, so you can set one or the other or both different directions there. Minimum and max, I think, is the main thing on that one, level. Then you got voice A, and then you got voice B, and then you got the key. So you got, looks like G minor, F minor, E minor, and in between those, G, A, B, E, D, C, and D minor, C minor, B minor, A minor. So it's various keys you can set it toward. And then you got 2 different voices that you can set. You can have them harmonically in tune with one another and with what you're playing, or you can have them create a disharmonic sound by tuning them differently and in an off tuning, so it doesn't harmonize but causes a little bit of a disharmonic sound, sort of a detuned sound, out of tune sound. But no matter how you use it, whether you're using it for more of a harmonious tune or less harmonious tune, it adds notes, so it's kind of like an accompaniment with whatever you're playing. It's going to be a little bit thicker, fatter, more interesting sound just by having that one pedal. I like to use echo pedals as well, digital delays or reverb, or echo or sampling pedals that you can loop, because they add that extra texture, extra notes. Once you've played it with the echo pedal, it'll play it back, and you can be playing something else And so it's adding the first note you played to the second note you're playing. You know, anyway. So I do like the echo effects as well. One of my favorites is echo, but the Harmonist is probably the favorite pedal that I use on a regular basis. And then I've been playing around with this Behringer Digital Multi-Effects pedal. This is the FX100. I think they may have a FX200 or 300 or 400 or 600. I forget what it is. But there's a couple of different ones that Behringer make. And I think, is that a German company? Behringer. But this is a multi-effects pedal. We got your level here. We got your parameter 1, parameter 2, and then you got the actual effect selection here, which include the flanger, the chorus, the phaser, the delay, tremolo, and then the pitch shifter. So you only get to tune it to one of those effects at a time. My most recent one, I Eat Pie, has a nice tremolo effect on it. That's where it's set right now. And I got parameter 2 going off at about 2 o'clock, and parameter 1 is sticking down here toward 5 o'clock. And I got the level up about 2/3. So it's coming in pretty strong there. But this is what gave it a lot of that kind of a wah, 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 tremolo sound, like a vibrato or almost like a wah pedal. In that more recent video, I think I also was using it on the one right before that, which was kind of Christmassy, not that Christmassy sounding, but I made it look like I look like Santa Claus in it. It's when I called it Snowy Twinkle, I think. But I was using on the Snowy Twinkle one, I think I was using the flanger or chorus effect. It had kind of a little bit of a brassy metal sound in it. These are relatively inexpensive, I believe the Behringers are, and I've been told or read about them saying where I believe they're partly ceramic or something. They're not as sturdy as some pedals. If you're stomping on them, they call them stomp boxes, but I don't think that's a good idea. Especially I've heard about the Behringers, it's not a good idea to really treat them too roughly. And they will hold up if you're not that rough with them. I generally, a lot of the playing I do is I have the pedals up here, I don't have them down on the floor, and I activate them by pushing. You know, you don't have to stomp it to turn it on. And if you got time before the concert starts, you can bend down and press it with your hand even if it's on the floor. Or just tap it with your toe enough to engage the switch. Sure, if you got money, then stomp on them or whatever. And maybe you don't want one like this. Maybe you want one that's a little more robust. But if, you know, money's not an object, stomp on it, treat it however, and buy you another one every time it breaks, you know. Or use it in whatever manner best suits your purposes. But what's kind of fun about them is they are cheap, and so you don't have to pay too much attention to them or worry about them. And then sometimes they have a little bit of an interesting effect, even though it's not like the price here or some of the boutique pedals, they call them. They're really nice, customized, expensive ones. A pedal like this from, what's the name of them, Zyvex or whatever, will maybe cost you $200 or $300. But I think I got this one off of eBay for like $20 or $30. I mean, a Behringer, not a Zyvex, or, you know, any of the other more expensive customized or boutique pedals will cost you up in the range of $100 to $200 easily, most of them. But these guys, the Behringer pedals, often are down in the 30, 40, or maybe even cheaper than that dollar range. And if you're just starting out, it's a good pedal to play with because you got several different effects. You can figure out if you like flanging or chorus, or whether you like tremolo or delay, and you can fiddle around with this enough to get the idea, so that if you want to go out and buy a more expensive pedal, you might want to put $100 into a good delay pedal if you find out that's the effect you like. One that'll have more versatility than this one, and maybe better tone or something than that one. But there you go, cheap pedal does a lot. And then also in my usual setup, I've been using the noise suppressor Rocktron Hush pedal. There are a lot of different noise suppressing pedals. I've seen a Boss pedal recently that I almost bought. It was used. And I thought, well, we could try Boss and see if theirs is good or better than a Rocktron. I've had real good experience with these. I've got a couple of them. So it's real simple. You just activate it by pushing the button, and then you can have the threshold down toward a minimum if you just got a little bit of noise on your line. But every time you have a connection, there's a chance there's more noise. So with me, I'm using 4 or 5 pedals at a time sometimes. It gets to be a fair amount of little fuzz, static, hum, noise in the signal. And yeah, there's one that's not quite in there good. If it's not in the hole good too, if it move around some, if you're on stage and they get kicked around a little bit, it's going to add that noise to it, and you can use these to help suppress some of that. Now, some people want the raw signal exactly like it is, and maybe their rig or setup doesn't have as much noise in it, so they don't need these, or they don't like these. That's fine too, whatever works for you. I've just noticed that a lot of times my setup has a lot of hum in it, and it's just real easy to have this in the lineup to help clean it up before it goes to the amp. And I usually keep it on max. It just takes out some of that kind of a woo noise you get out of the rig if you don't have a real clean signal. And those are the main pedals I've been using lately. Right before this particular setup, I had one other pedal in the mix. Thought I'd bring it out. I hadn't shown this one before, I don't believe. And it's just a distortion pedal by MXR. And it's kind of a nice one. I bought it used, so it didn't cost me that much, but I think it might cost a little bit if you bought it new. I probably think it's probably in the $100 range, maybe a little more than that. What's kind of nice about it, it's got actually 2 channels here of distortion that you can program to go into your signal. It's got the one input on this side coming from your guitar, plug into that, and then the output on this side. And in the meantime, you can engage one or both switches there, which may or may not use one or both channels. And then you got the focus buttons here, which can engage one or both channels. Also give a little more emphasis to it. And then you got the knob controls here of the output, bass, mid-range, treble, and gain for both channels. So you can actually have them set a little differently and either just hear one or hear the other. And you can hear both, and then you can focus it more on one or the other, or have them both focused, and have 4 different ways to hear the same basic line of distortion settings there. And in fact, even more than 4 different ways. It's exponential. It's something like 16 different ways or something. Combinations of switches there. And then nearly infinite by the time you add all the knobs, different combinations. And this one I used in the pieces I called Deryl. And I used it in 1 or 2 other videos that came right between that Deryl videos and the more recent ones, the Snowy Twinkle and I Eat Pie. So that was in the mix, adding the distortion tone instead of the Tube Screamer, instead of the Ibanez. I didn't have that in my lineup. I had the distortion pedal there, but I was using the rest of this. Pretty much the same lineup. But all very fun, interesting pedals, if you can afford it. I buy most of mine used. I get them off of eBay or down at the local music store where people are trading in their old pedals, and sometimes they don't work quite as well as the brand new ones, and occasionally I have a little money, I can buy a new one, but oftentimes you can get a used one that'll work just about as good for you. It don't look as cosmetically nice. This one's a little dusty. Some of these got scratches on them and stuff. But you know, it's about the sound, man. Do what you gotta do to make that crazy sound. That's what it's about. Well, hope that was interesting. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.